Now this morning, reaction to violence in Gaza, where 58 people were killed by Israeli troops.
Let's speak right now to Michael Freeman, Councillor for Civil Society Affairs in the Israeli Embassy in London. Morning to you. There has been international condemnation about what happened yesterday. Do you see those pictures with regret?
Good morning. I think it's important to understand that Hamas are the ones who are solely responsible for this violence. Hamas are the ones who've coordinated it, they've planned it, and for weeks now they've been threatening to carry out these violence and this attack against Israel, and that's what we've seen over the last day.
So the live fire from the Israelis, that was not responsible for what happened?
Well, what we've seen is Hamas have been encouraging people to come towards the border and to tear it down and to try and come into Israeli communities the other side of the border and slaughter our civilians. In the words of Yahya Sinawar, who's the head of Hamas, he said, "We will tear down the border and we will rip their hearts out of their bodies." So it's quite clear what Hamas have been trying to do, and we've acted in the way that I think any country in the world would act, which is if terrorists are attempting to approach your border, to tear it down and to come and attack your civilians, that you would act in order to stop that from happening.
58 people have been killed. We understand that some of them were children, including a baby. Is this not excessive force?
Well, we obviously are saddened at the death of any children. And we need to look and see what happened and how it happened. But we know that Hamas hide behind children, that they bring children to the front line, that we've seen pictures of their leaders holding babies as they come forward. And in fact, Hamas are paying their activists and paying people to try and tear down that border. Yesterday we saw over 10 attempts to plant explosive devices on the border. We saw a number of live fire attempts. We've seen dozens of Molotov cocktail. We've seen people with knives and with hatchets trying to come to attack Israelis, to tear down that border and to come through and kill civilians. You know, Mahmoud al-Zahar, who's the head of Hamas, made it very clear that this was their aim. And when they were challenged on BBC radio last week, and your reporter said to them, look, by doing this, it's likely that Palestinians will be killed or be injured because they're going to be approaching a border and trying to tear it down. And he said, we know what the price is. We're willing to make the sacrifice that we need to.
Can I just put your point to you that from the UN High Commissioner, he has called these outrageous human rights violations, saying people must be held to account.
Well, I agree people need to be held to account, and Hamas needs to be held to account for the actions that they're taking and for them putting their people in line. Hamas control this.
No Israelis, as far as we understand, were injured yesterday. 58 Palestinians killed. Is this proportionate?
Well, I don't believe that we need to wait for terrorists to cross the border and kill civilians before we act. If you see a terrorist coming towards you with a gun or with explosives or with a Molotov cocktail, you act in order to protect your civilians. If these people don't come to the border, if these people don't try and tear it down, then we've got no need or no intention in order to do anything. What we're doing is purely protecting our border, and that's what this is all about. It's protecting our border from radical Islamist terrorists from Hamas and from the people that they are sending who are trying to come and killing our civilians.
Okay, so can I just ask you a question as well, because there are likely to be more protests today, particularly given what happened yesterday. So are you saying that Israel will respond in the same manner?
I'm saying that if people try and cross the border, if people try and kill Israeli civilians, we will take the action necessary to protect our civilians. And any country in the world, Britain included, if people were coming across your border with guns and with explosives and with Molotov cocktails, and they were openly stating they were going to kill your civilians. You know, yesterday there were a number of interviews with activists on the ground, with Palestinian Hamas activists, who said that their aim is to tear down the border, and when they get to the other side, when they were asked by the Washington Post reporter what they were planning on doing, their response was, we're going to kill the Jews. We're going to slaughter the Jews.
I'll ask you one more question. And this is the Prime Minister here is calling for calm and restraint. The EU Foreign Policy Chief also urging utmost restraint. From what you're saying, that is not what is planned.
Well, the question needs to be asked to Hamas. Again, I would remind you, if Hamas make an announcement today that no one should go to the border and no one should go and storm the border, this will end immediately. We need to be very, very clear here that Hamas are coordinating. They're sending messages over social media. They are busing people there. Hamas are not a democracy. They are a brutal dictatorship that control every aspect of the Gazans' life. They are the ones sending people there. They are the ones paying people to go to the border. They are the ones paying people to attack attack Israel. And if they make a decision to stop, it will stop. We've seen in the last 6 weeks that Hamas have got complete and total control. So I would absolutely echo the call for restraint. I would absolutely echo the call for that everybody has been making, and say to Hamas, call this off, call off the violence, call off the terrorism, and allow us to be able to live and to move forward without you trying to kill our civilians.
Michael Freeman, a Councillor for Civil Society Affairs at the Israeli Embassy in London. Thank you.
Thank you.